trickle in, our millions of adoring fans, our subscribers here. Welcome back, everyone. It's been a while since I streamed. I'm here with Dennis Pratt today. We are going to be talking about Liberty Forum 2025, what Liberty Forum is, what it has been, and what it aspires to be this time around. But first, I know you've been waiting for it, your favorite part of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sigh. All you have to do is take a deep breath of this beautiful air that we have, and in simultaneity with me. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah, that was good. Gotta love it. Okay, so
You had a hair that was sticking up and now it's laid down. So
Oh, yeah?
I think it works really well.
nice, great. Okay, so Dennis, where do we start? Liberty Forum. What has Liberty Forum been historically? What is Liberty Forum?
Well, the New Hampshire Liberty Forum is a conference. We have, the Free State Project has two major events that it puts on. The Free State Project being the 6 or 7, depending on how you count, maybe 8 people who run kind of a central office. Their job is primarily to inform others that there is such a thing as the Free State Project, that we're moving to New Hampshire, that we're concentrating all of the libertarians in one small place. So they put on 2 big conferences. One is ParkFest, which is kind of this experience liberty, and the other is kind of a more of a mind conference, a typical conference, kind of theoretical. And it hasn't really been. It's always had a kind of a confusing positioning in the past because it hasn't really been New Hampshire specific that much. Usually it has a couple of outside New Hampshire people who are talking about liberty things, kind of. And then we'll have a few internal people talking about some liberty things. But it hasn't really had a cohesive positioning, cohesive strategy.
Yeah.
Ron Paul wants to come up. Come here, baby. And so I've been running. I hate to do this. Is it okay if I put him up?
Yeah, it's fine.
Because he's gonna be crying. He
It's
thinks
fine.
he thinks
Ron Paul, everybody. So Liberty Forum, as Dennis was saying, is one of the 2 major events that the Free State Project does. The Free State Project is a mission to maximize the effectiveness of libertarians to effectuate real change in politics by coming together and all moving to New Hampshire so that way we can help to manifest a libertarian society to the best of our ability in the most effective way possible, which is to all come here to New Hampshire and hopefully achieve liberty within our lifetime. So that is the greater context in which Liberty Forum is happening. And anything you want to say about the Free State Project more broadly, to let my viewers who might not be familiar, which is kind of new for my channel to get into sort of a partisan political content, but I thought it was important to have those who might be interested in this sort of thing be aware that there are intentional communities that are dedicated to causes and making things happen in the world. And one of the most interesting and exciting ones is the Free State Project. So happy to
Well,
talk about
libertarianism is a very low incidence belief system, but it's a beautiful belief system where we can actually live in consensual relationship. So everything is voluntary. We don't use violence against each other, and when we see it, we say, "This is fantastic. Why don't other people see it?" And there's a number of reasons why other people don't see it. I've spent about 35, 36 years in what I call the authoritarian 49, the other states that are not particularly heading towards libertarianism, trying to convert people and tell them about this beautiful way of interacting with each other in a peaceful, voluntary manner, and largely failed. I mean, I've had a lot of converts, but largely, I would think that this would be something that people would just be so excited about.
Right.
The Free State Project was kind of saying, it's really hard to convert people. Most people are just not going to convert. So what if we just said, if you want to join us, that's fantastic. But otherwise, those who already want that type of society, let's get those people together into one region and then actually create that type of society that other people can come and visit and see. And if they want to join us, that's fine. But stop trying to convert everyone. And so it's kind of a letting go of this idea that everyone has to be libertarian, just accepting that most people will not be libertarian.
Right.
And so what we're going to do is we're just going to separate ourselves to a small region and create our own liberty society there. It's kind of like, gays, they don't try to turn everyone gay, right? They move to San Francisco. Yeah. The Chinese move to Chinatown. Mormons move, I guess they do a lot of proselytizing. Right. But they kind of fail. They fail a little bit less than libertarians fail. Right. But they move to Utah. Right. Jews move to Israel. And so it's since I've moved here, I really have spent much less time on trying to convert people who are already authoritarian and instead building up a liberty society. And it's been a lot of fun for me, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful vision, and I guess what we've talked about off camera is sort of turning Liberty Forum into a place that pushes that mission forward in a practical way. So do you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, we have two events that try to push it forward, right? The Pork Fest, Porcupine Freedom Festival, which is this, experience what a liberty society might be like for a week. You go there for a week. And the New Hampshire Liberty Forum, which is a kind of a more intellectual take on it. So what we're doing this year is we're actually positioning it to look specifically at where are we in the emerging liberty for real societies. And it's not just New Hampshire, but there's a large number of other societies that are looking to try to create some sort of liberty for real. So what we're trying to do is collect all of those examples and say, what are the roadblocks that we're facing? Right. And what are some possible solution paths to get past those roadblocks? Right. And so that's what New Hampshire Liberty Forum will be this year. It's going to be the first ever conference for emerging liberty for real societies. Right. I'm hoping that we get societies from all over the world that are trying different things, and talking about the real problems that we face as we actually start creating a little bit more liberty in an overwhelmingly large authoritarian society, a larger authoritarian world. Right. So how do we create these little pockets of liberty? And so that's what we're doing. Very excited about it. I think we finally got a space. It's going to be the end of April. I'm looking for the dates. We just got it last week, and of course I should know the dates already. Right. But anyway, I will get the dates before we end.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work that you are doing for Liberty Forum and the work that you've done for Pork Fest. I really, honestly, have an immense appreciation for this being here, for me to come and join and participate in it and see if we can make this whole thing happen, this beautiful experiment that we're striving towards. So thank you for everything that you do to make these things happen. So Liberty Forum, you said in the past it hasn't been as clear of a mission statement, right? So can you give me an idea of some of the attendees, participants, speakers in the past that have been at Liberty Forum?
Well, and some of the attendees and speakers are very exciting and they're interesting. They just are missing from our unique selling proposition.
Right.
So our unique selling proposition is that we're creating a Liberty Society here. And so if we get a national speaker, somebody who, non-free staters, people who aren't in New Hampshire, they get excited about it. They want to come see. But they're talking about reforming Washington, D.C.,
right,
or making, making some sort of small changes in Washington. That's not really what we're doing.
Yeah.
Well, we're not trying to change the United States. We're trying to change this one small little area and make this one little area a Liberty Society. And that's a really hard project.
Right.
So the vast majority of libertarians are looking at issues that have to do with national or international policies. I don't think that they really have much control over that because we're so few. But they think about it and they talk about those issues a lot. If you listen to our podcasters, they're almost all focused on these very large issues that really we have no control whatsoever on. But in New Hampshire, we have a lot of control. We actually have political control, but we're developing communities. This is one of many Liberty clubhouses that we're sitting in here. This is the Shell Liberty Clubhouse. And we have about 6 or 7 different Liberty clubhouses here.
Right.
But we have homeschooling groups all over the place. We have homesteading groups. We have shooting groups. We have, we're building these little communities. I state that we have over 100 groups. I think we have way more than 100 different groups.
Right.
Just in New Hampshire. And the question is, how do we put these together into a coherent Liberty Society? Now, that's a big issue. It's not, though, what's happening in the House of Representatives in D.C.
Right.
So you get a talk here in New Hampshire about what's going on in D.C., and I just think it's distracting.
Right.
It's distracting from what we uniquely are doing.
Especially a big name that might get people really excited, and there's big issues out there, but that will kind of attract people who want to hear that big name discuss issues in the national arena or foreign policy or things like that. And you can see the appeal of wanting to draw people into Liberty Forum and have this big conference in New Hampshire. However, it dilutes and it takes away from the focus of the mission that you've been articulating here, making New Hampshire, learning the best practices perhaps from other experimental, emergent, free societies across the globe. Is that sort of what you have in mind, is to share best practices and the lessons learned from different experiments? And is it going to be more of an academic kind of feel, or is it going to be all practical steps? Or let me ask the question this way, and this might put you on the spot a little bit, but what would the ideal presenter, the ideal speaker, the candidate that you're looking for kind of present or talk about or something like that? Who does that person look like, the type of person who you want to have present at Liberty Forum? Yeah, so
yes, of course it's great to have a national speaker who's talking about these big issues and it's generally of interest to libertarians. The trouble is that we are probably the most important libertarian effort going on in the world right now, and I would argue going on in the last century, because we're actually creating liberty for real. And the more we don't focus on that, the more no one's focusing on it.
Yeah.
So somebody has to focus on it, and it has to be New Hampshire focusing on it. So as much as I'd like to have these big speakers, you can hear those big speakers anywhere.
Right.
You will not be able to hear the talks that we're going to have at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum anywhere else in the world, because they've never been done anywhere else in the world.
Wow.
And what we're looking at is bringing in people who are involved in creating liberty for real societies. An ideal speaker is somebody who knows about a particular Liberty for Real Society effort. It could be a current one. It could be one that's just now getting off the ground. It could be something that failed, right? Which I'm actually having a postmortem is actually very interesting to me,
right?
Because we've had a number of ones that have failed. Why have they failed? What caused the failure? What are things that we could do to not fail in the future? So somebody who has that type of awareness can describe the strengths and weaknesses of that. Okay, and then tunnel down to a specific issue, something that is really a big problem in an area that they want to address, and then describe maybe a taxonomy of solution paths to look there, but take at least one of those and take that and say, here's the one I'm recommending that you do. And advancing that in some detail, so that we actually we come out of it understanding where a particular Liberty for Real emerging society has been having trouble. We understand some scope of possible solution paths, and we have somebody who's thought through and said, this is the way I think that we can actually make real progress in this one area.
Right.
So we're going to be asking people to bring in topics that they're really excited about, that they're facing in their Liberty for Real Society, or they've seen in a Liberty for Real Society. It is a little bit more academic, but it's not going to be totally nerdy. It's going to be, I think that we want this open to a lot of practitioners.
Right.
Essentially, the paper that we're asking for is kind of the presentation that they would be giving, plus, maybe some additional information, references, that type of thing.
Right.
Here's when I describe a problem, a lot of times I'll go, here's the problem. Here's a set of issues that come out of it. Here's a set of solutions, and here's my solution path. And any one of those could be more detailed within the paper. But you only have a 50-minute slot. But give us a paper. We have some judges who will be looking at it, and we're going to be selecting from those the people who will actually they'll be given a slot to speak. The paper will be published in the first volume of Liberty Forum. Emerging Liberty for Real Societies, the issues and things like that. So this is going to be the first volume. Cool. I'm hoping that we'll actually have, each year, we'll have volumes.
Nice.
And they'll actually be referencing each other. So we're trying to start a Liberty thinking group that focuses on Liberty for Real, as opposed to Liberty in Fantasyland, or reforming DC, which is just, it's just not going to happen.
Okay, so I think I'm beginning to understand even better what we're aiming for with this Liberty Forum. I'm starting to get excited about that.
Well, let me tell you the other thing that you get if your paper is accepted. And I'm saying this year, the acceptance is going to be the easiest one, right? Because hopefully we'll be so successful, people go, why didn't I submit something? I want to get in on this.
Yeah.
But you also get a couple of discussion table roundtables. So in the center we'll have 2 conference rooms going, but then in the center there'll be these discussion tables, and then the different speakers will have a couple of sessions where people who are interested in that topic, they want to come, and they might have additional ideas, brainstorming, or have you ever thought about this? Or here's my experience here. So actual problem solving sessions that will be going on. So you present your people can read your paper. They hear the presentation. Of course, you have questions and answers during the talk. But then afterwards, you actually get together with people who are really, really, really interested in creating and building Liberty for Real societies. And these are going to be smart people. These are going to be people who really believe in liberty. They're fairly well read, perhaps in areas that you're not familiar with anthropology or psychology or artificial intelligence. certainly we'll have a lot of economists, people who and when I talk about economists, I'm not talking about someone who has a PhD. We will have those, but also people who are just like myself, or armchair economists, right? We're all autodidactic, so we've all learned a lot. So so this is more for the people who like to think deeply about what the issues are, and really talk about what those issues are, and say, well, have you ever thought about this issue, or have you tried this, or here's something. And the hope is that coming out of here, that it's not just these papers that sit there. It's this living excitement of people very excited about these different emerging Liberty for Real societies, ready to roll up their sleeves, try out new ideas, see what works, and come back for the second year and tell us, what happened.
I love how it's anchored into the practical and what can be implemented and what has been and all of that, because a lot of times things go into the realm of theory and kind of never come back, or they get too comfortable in theory and abstractions and all of that, and they never descend down to what can practically be implemented. The strategic, the tactical level, and just having kind of a really healthy rooting and anchoring in that. I mean, that's the best. That's the best of both worlds, because you're keeping it open to ideas and intellectual curiosity and that academic sense, but then you're also aiming at and oriented towards actually making this happen. I like the phrase, like, liberty for real societies, right? This isn't we're not writing sci-fi novels here. We're living these principles out.
So I mean, I have a list. I have a list of things that are troubling me just with what we're doing here in New Hampshire, and it's probably somewhere around 50. And this is just my brainstorming of issues that we're seeing, or issues that we're going to be bumping up against, and we don't have thinkers thinking through these things. So many of the people in the Free State New Hampshire effort, they're so busy, with the different groups and stuff like that they haven't actually taken a step back and said, how are we going to get through? Here's an issue that seems somewhat systemic. How do we get through this problem? Right. And that's what excites me, is giving them the opportunity and time, and just a weekend. It's just a weekend. You come in on Thursday, the April 24th. We'll have a little reception. You'll pick up your book of all the papers. You can kind of page through them, choose which ones you're going to be going and talking or listening to, and then Friday and Saturday will be actual presentations. The nighttime, Friday night, you'll be able to go out with a particular speaker, somebody you want to hang out with, to the different restaurants. Saturday we'll have a keynote speaker that's yet to be announced. And then Sunday, you can kind of have a breakfast with some subset of the people, and then go on your way. So it's really the 25th and 26th, which will be the conference times, but it'll be, we'll have a kind of reception on Thursday night, and on Sunday morning we'll have breakfasts of various kinds that people can go to, and really kind of solidify connections that you want to maintain moving out of this.
Cool. So just to be clear, when and where is Liberty Forum?
So when is April 25th and 26th? Okay. I recommend that you come in on the 24th, which is Thursday, April 24th, on Thursday. It is in Concord at 70 Constitution Avenue. And it's a lovely conference center that we'll have a center area that has the tables and vendors and speaker tables and things like that, and then 2 different conference rooms that people will be speaking at.
Right.
And then it's in Concord, which is the center for the capital of New Hampshire. So we'll have dinners at the various sites on Friday nights where you can go and meet up with different people. We'll have signups. There'll be a VIP package that you get a first choice as to whom you want to eat dinner with.
Nice.
And then, like I said, on Saturday night, there'll be a keynote speaker at dinner.
Cool. That sounds great. I know last Liberty Forum, I was surprised how many state reps and actual political actors in New Hampshire there were. Is that something that you're going to keep going, or is that not necessary? Is that something you're focusing on or not, or what do you expect? Because it's in Concord, so that brought it to mind.
Yeah. Last year we had a lot. Last year was very much a very practical and very political aspect. I think that so many of the issues that we have aren't really politics, as in here's this one bill that we have to get through, and how do we get through this, and this is happening. We actually are facing kind of community issues and structural issues, and issues of shifting over from kind of an authoritarian system in this one area to a more liberty society here. I'll just give you one example. We have had a number of issues where there have been accusations within our larger community, our larger liberty community, that there have been non-aggression principle violations.
Right.
So somebody has said, this person has violated my self-ownership. And we don't really yet have a way of adjudication of that. And we don't want to go to the state, because the state is so costly and so heavy and it doesn't really, and it's not based on restitution, right? Our philosophy is more of we want to restore you to how you were. So, so the one question comes up, how do you get from a system where everyone is thinking, oh, well, I have to go to the state and I have to file a lawsuit in this way, and it's going to take me 5 years and it's going to cost me this amount of money, to a polylegalistic type of system that we know we generally want to move towards, but we don't know how to do that transition, right? So that would be just one area that somebody who was really into law and thinking about this type of thing, hey, they may say, I want to actually write about that. But that's a system, that's an issue that a particular legislator who is running for election this cycle and worried about bills that are coming up 2 months from now, that's not something that they're going to be focused on. Right? We need people who can actually sit back. Now, some of those people, especially in the Liberty, in the New Hampshire House and Senate, who are Liberty people, they tend to be thinking kind of at a higher level. So if they're thinking at that level, they're going to be coming in, and they may be bringing in political issues and things like that they're really concerned about. And this will give them a chance to think about, to make a proposal, and to get feedback on, and have, this is how I think we might be able to overcome this. But it's not going to be, an immediate, okay, we have these bills pending and let's move forward on those bills.
Right. That makes sense. Now, have you considered how this compares to some newer models for kind of peer review or academic journals? I'm kind of getting a sense that it's possible to take some inspiration from those, best practices for kind of doing the whole academic side. I'm also feeling there can be some inspiration from kind of the tech startup incubator type thing, as well as almost like a what do they call those? Like a hacker convention, not hackers, coding jam type thing, where it's you were actually really getting down to let's all sit down with our computers and have a problem we want to solve or something we want to create, and just code and just build it here and now and be creating something then and there. Let's get together and do this, and this is kind of some of the things that, and it's great, incredible things can come out of those, incubation places. Do you think it might end up being like that sort of a event?
Well, I really hope that it is. What I hope is that people are coming in and, let's say someone from Free Cities is coming in. They say, look, these are the types of issues. This is an issue that we're really facing here. Here's some solutions. And now, at the roundtables, they're actually brainstorming and coming up with new ideas and, oh, geez, let's try this. Or, I actually think that what we'll see is people kind of moving to, I really want to work on this project. Let's work on this project together.
Right.
And I think we have so much brain power in the libertarian movement. Libertarians are probably of the various different groups at the highest level in terms of brain power. The trouble is that we waste all that brain power on things on issues that we cannot solve because we just have too few. Well, these issues that we're facing here in our small little liberty emerging societies, those are solvable. Mm-hmm. Those are things where we need to be applying our brain power and doing it. So what I'm hoping that New Hampshire Liberty Forum will do, it'll start pulling some of that brain resource away from the intractable problems, the problems that we have no chance whatsoever to affect, and reapplying them to the areas where we really are seeing success and where we need that brain power in. So I would hope that we see a lot of realignment and people forming coalitions and groups and say, hey, let's work on this area together. So I'm hoping that people will come in. They're going to be nervous. They go, oh, I don't know what this conference is like. It's the first ever. Will they be interested in my ideas? And I think that what we'll see is people leaving here really invigorated, really inspired, really excited, with ideas of this is what I want to do. I really want to help in this area. Right. Oh my goodness. I see a path forward here. So that's what I'm hoping that we have, where we pull the necessary resources down, we start solving problems, and then boom, it blossoms out.
Right.
And now that hopefully will lead to the next one, the Liberty Forum 2026. If I'm still running it, we'll be doing kind of the same thing, but now it's going to be, a big step forward. Right. Right. Yeah. We do have people who will be quote unquote judging the papers. My guess is that they're just going to be making some comments and suggestions, and before we put them to press. Right. Here you might want to just include this reference or this idea, or have you thought about that? Right. But we will have people who are in psychology and economics and politics and community and people reviewing this thing. So it's actually going to be a really good kind of expert people helping you make your presentation and the publication, your publication look really good. Wow. And then, now in future years, I would hope that we would get so bombarded with papers that we have so many that we actually have to start allocating time and stuff. Right. I think the first year we're going to get just about the right number of ideas and papers, and we're not going to have to say, oh well, sorry, that you didn't make it. Right. So I think if people are really passionate about something, you hear that?
This is your opportunity. This is your opportunity right now.
Get in early.
Get in early. Submit your paper. Start writing. Start working on it. That thesis that has just been brewing for years and years. Now's the time to get it down on paper. Get it submitted to the review board for Liberty Forum 2025, and this is your shot to be published in the first volume of what will be the publication that transforms humanity and moves us all towards a freer, happier, prosperous society. So get on it. There's your homework assignment.
It's kind of like being in Bitcoin in 2009, 2008,
right,
2009.
Exactly. Now, I'm glad you brought that up. So we've been talking about this like in a general sense of like But let's talk a little bit about like just throw it out there. The categories of the types of things that we're talking about. So we're talking about solving, the issue of money. We're talking about what's going to be the money of the future that empowers individuals to liberate themselves. We're talking about emergent nations, which may be the networks, the ideas like Balaji's network state, something that is going to be 10 times better than the existing, status quo of the nation state, and will be this beautiful thing that will end up replacing it, right? We're talking about sort of maybe like creating a deep cultural transformation to orient people towards these positive sum games to allow them to transcend, fighting over resources. We're talking about like emergent technologies that can empower people to pursue individual liberty, right? Like,
and I think that what we're going to make a distinction between is there are, the current papers are, okay, there's this authoritarian thing that's happening here, and we think that if you give a little bit more freedom, something nice will happen, right? That's the kind of the DC approach. There's also theoretical papers of, hey, this would be great if it was somehow enacted some way.
right.
New Hampshire is the #1 state for crypto,
Right.
okay? But we don't have crypto totally transforming everything. We have some people living on crypto. We do transactions in crypto. Okay, so what are the problems? What's stopping us here?
Right.
Okay, and how do we get around that? How might we be able to get around that? You talked about money. It's crypto and gold and silver and gold backs and metals and alternative currencies. So what are ways? So what we're looking at is that interface between where we are and where we're going.
Right.
So there'll still be a market for the high theoretical. Oh yes, Bitcoin would be the best thing ever. Blah blah blah. And then there's the market for we're still going to be in an authoritarian society, but maybe this one little change will.
So like the marginal revolution.
But here in the emerging liberty for real societies, we actually have made gigantic progress. We're bumping up against things.
Right.
How do we get around that? How do we get around those in practical ways so that now all of a sudden that obstacle is removed and we can go
Right.
right? And then that's 2026, right? Now we got, now we're bumping up against here. Okay, now how do we go next?
Right.
Right? So it's really kind of saying, let's get real here, folks.
Yeah.
Great. You can talk about practical stuff or theoretical stuff. You can talk about trying to lobby our authoritarian politicians, but what about people who are really working on the front lines of liberty for real and helping them advance? And you could be talking about money, legal systems. You could be talking about contracts, about boundaries. There's this big debate about immigration and what do you do about immigration? What are the types of people who are in there? So New Hampshire's Free State Project has an assumption that you really need libertarians to have a libertarian society. Well, what if you have a large group of people who are very anti-libertarian in the society? What do you do with that group?
Right.
How do you respectfully insulate the people who want to be free from the people who want to enslave them? Right? And we see that friction now almost daily, right? So that's an obstacle right now. Yeah. How do we make those transitions? And of course, we've had a number of solutions suggested, state swap and things like that. But I think that there's just almost any area, food security, defense. Both defense of the Liberty Society from the external authoritarian societies, but also defense within. Right. What do you do about the commons? And how do you transition the commons over to private?
Right.
Because the commons are kind of where all the authoritarianism slips in.
Yeah.
And it slips in on the commons and then starts moving over to the private, and we go, oh, geez, and how do we stop that snake from getting in?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make those transitions? So I think that there's just so many areas. If anyone's interested, I have a long list of possible topics that I just brainstormed, and I would love people to add to those.
Great.
But I'm looking for anybody who can think about these areas, is excited about a particular area, and feels like they want to advance a real liberty for society in real liberty,
Right.
as opposed to theoretical or just kind of a little bit less authoritarianism.
Right. Yeah. We mentioned it earlier and in passing, but why don't you tell me a little bit about where we are right now and how this came to be?
We are sitting in the Shell, which is one of 7, depends on how you count, 7 Liberty Clubhouses in New Hampshire. The Shell stands for Seacoast Harbors Every Liberty Lover. So this is supposed to be like a little harbor for all liberty lovers who are in here. It's not we do have Liberty Clubhouses that are much more closed for particular segments. This is an open one that is, as long as you believe in the non-aggression principle, you're not going to be initiating violence against people, your own or through the government, you're welcome here. We have debates here, we have parties, we have discussions, we have movies, we have a regular meeting here once a week, we have poker games, we have just all different types of things. And the different community centers will have different types of events going. I would like to see, one of my goals early on was to create enough Liberty Centers that no one had to drive more than 25 minutes to get to one. Mm-hmm. Now, we're still pretty far away from that, but we're getting closer. We're getting closer. And of course, it's easier the more libertarians move here. Because as we get more and more and more people, it's now they can kind of, oh yeah, I really feel like I belong with this center or that center. Mm-hmm. Now this is a community center, but we have, like I said, we have 100 groups. So we'll have groups that might be around a religious belief or a philosophy, a stoicism, and they'll meet. We have a group that's around personal growth, and they'll meet. Mm-hmm. In different ways and do exercises and stuff like that. So this is more kind of a social community, especially kind of, hey, I'm doing this. Who else might be interested in it? Yeah. So you started the Ruck group here.
I did.
and that really expanded very quickly, and a lot of people really enjoyed it. But it was really you just kind of saying, hey, I'm going to do this. Who else in this group would do it? Now, how do you find those people? Well, you can find them virtually. We have a lot of different virtual groups, but you can find them in person. And then actually planting a flag and saying, we will be here Sunday at 3:00, mm-hmm. and have your backpack. We'll help you get going. And then you leave from here.
1:15. 1:15 arrival time. 1:30. Bring your backpack. Yeah.
You can tell
every Sunday. It has been really great. So one thing, I've tried to do ruck events, and for a long time, rucking is simply carrying a heavy weight in a backpack for a long distance. It comes from the military kind of ruck march because their bags are called rucksacks. Now, it's interesting because there's nothing like necessarily disposing this clubhouse or the libertarian community in New Hampshire to that type of activity. It's an activity that's kind of like these Tough Mudders and stuff like this, but my own personal experience was this is something I'm into. It's fitness. It builds communitas, fraternitas. It helps people bond together. You do something challenging together, and it's really an excuse to the event's an excuse to get together and really like talk about things, and for men a lot of times we need like an activity that's an excuse, sports, golf, whatever, or going out to the bar, to kind of really, open up and stuff like that. So that's the secret agenda to the ruck. But also for fitness, and there's all these synchronicities. And I just started talking about it. I'm going to start this event Sundays at this time and place, and people really showed up. So that's the type of thing that, there's this, really positive cultural climate here in New Hampshire where you can just say, hey, I want to try this thing. And, instead of really struggling in some other places, people show up and they say, how can I help? That sounds cool. I want to give that a try. I want to see if it's for me. And it's really easy to make things that you want to happen in a community exist in this type of beautiful, type of society that we're building here, where we're oriented towards positive sum games and just a foundation of values of non-aggression, private property, and individual liberty. And, if you start there, it's an incredible place to build beautiful, beautiful things. I also wanted to, I don't know, how are you feeling about time and that sort of thing? Are you
no, I was just going to branch off on
okay.
what you were talking about. I mean,
because I do want to ask you. I've got I love talking to you. I just don't want to go on and on. But if you're
well, we can also schedule something.
Yeah.
But you talked about sticking a flag in the ground and just saying, hey, I'm interested in rucking, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with libertarianism. Well, libertarianism is all libertarianism is I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to steal your stuff. After that, everything else can be libertarian. And so, what we're trying to do here is just find the people who aren't going to hurt us, who respect us as individuals, and then do fun things with them. So, so almost anything is possible here. I'm starting something up which is around personal growth.
That's what I was going to ask you about next.
Yeah.
So can you tell me about, because it also gives us some insight into you, the types of things that you build and you work on, and the types of initiatives that you're focused on. So if you wouldn't mind telling us about like the Insight Seminar stuff and those things.
Yeah, I mean it's a gigantic thing, but what I can say is libertarianism is about removing the obstacles that prevent us from being all we can be out in the real world. Personal growth is, a lot of those obstacles are inside of us. A lot of those obstacles were put in there as we grew up, by caretakers or teachers or things, and they're kind of ways that block us from being who we are. So I've often seen my life as being something dedicated to making everybody be as great as they can possibly be. So I want the greatest Michael that there is. I want the greatest Susan that there is. And the way to do that is to remove the obstacles that prevent us from showing who we truly are. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that starts with internal obstacles. So a lot of that is that personal growth. What are the things that I say to myself that stop me from being fantastic? Now, once I remove those internal things, well, there's, we have to sign you have these laws that you have to pass. You have to fill in these forms. We're going to be taxing you.
There's enough obstacles on the outside. We might as well get rid of the internal obstacles. Start there, right?
Well, I think that these go hand in glove. I think that we remove obstacles internally, we remove obstacles out externally, and every obstacle we remove, we get more and more of that human potential. So I'm really into I come from my conservative friends will laugh at me, but I come from kind of that left human potential movement of seeing the beauty in each of us and how we can actually express that out in the real world. And I object to when we are stunted, we are pushed down, and sometimes we do that to ourselves, and sometimes we do that to each other, and sometimes we have these people with guns who do it to us. Right. I would like to remove all of those obstacles and just see the beauty in all of us expressed out in the world, because I think that that's where we get the great expansion of human potential of a society there that just works incredibly well, incredible wealth, incredible joy, incredible happiness.
Yeah, and I really do see that from you. I know in our interactions, you kind of very quickly, I haven't known you for that long, but you very quickly saw like like John Vervaeke might call it the inner sage. You kind of saw this potential that I had and the way that I was, you know, inclined to like build and create things, and you know, have encouraged that and reminded me of that, and been like a very consistent reminder to be oriented towards doing those things, and that's a rare and beautiful part of who I am, and that's really refreshing to encounter. And unfortunately, you know, it's sad how rare that is in our society. But it's great to have it here, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, as a matter of fact, that was one of the main things I was doing with the Porcupine Freedom Festival when I took it over. Was I would listen to people about what it was that they really wanted to do. I said, "Great, you really want to do that? Why don't you do that in a little model within the Porcupine Freedom Festival?"
Right.
And of course, then their internal obstacles come in, right? They go, "Oh, I don't know if I could do it," or, you know, "I don't know, I got this problem," or, you know, the Golden Girls have a marathon on TV, and I really want to watch that. And so I have to work through that. And I got this reputation of being pushy, but I'm not. It's not so pushy. It's more like, "Well, Michael, you told me that you wanted to do this. I'm giving you an opportunity here to do it. You know, do you really want to do it?" Right. "Yeah, I want to do it, but the Golden Girls, I mean, Maude is really coming, you know." Really, one of the funny things that happened was 3 years ago or 2 years ago, there was this guy he wanted to lead this one thing. He just really so badly, and I said, "That's great. I want you to lead it." He goes, "I can't do it. I can't." And then he went and complained to somebody about me giving him the opportunity to do it. And so I called him up. I said, "Well, what's the problem here?" He goes, "Oh, well, you know, you kind of hold me to what I say." And I'm not. I'm holding him to what he wants, what he really seriously wants, but he says he can't do it. Then last year, he did it again. So the first year he actually did it, and the last year he did it again and again. He's like kind of pushing it, or I don't know. And then this most recent year he didn't do it because he wasn't asked to do it, right? As opposed to what I would like him to say is, "Hey, I do this." And so right. He wasn't asked to do it, and he goes, "Yeah." And then he started complaining. He started bitching at the new producer, saying, "Hey, you never asked me. Dennis asked me all the time." And I'm like laughing, going, "Man, it was like pulling teeth to get you to do that." And now he sees himself in this role of, I can kind of create this fantastic thing. Right. And I say, "Yes, do it." And now he just has to get over this idea that he has to be asked to do it. Right. And instead he comes in and says, "Here's what I do. Right. This is I. I am this fantastic creator of this type of event." And right. So that, you know, and this will be a 4-year process that he's been going through in an area that he really, really, really loves. Right. And you know, he just didn't see a way of doing it. Mm-hmm. And we released him from obstacles, and now he's actually this gigantic contributor in this area. Wow. You know? So I see that we ought to be doing that with everyone. Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's I think followers of my channel should know that I'm a pretty big fan of Akira the Don, who makes this. It's called Meaning Wave, and it's this lo-fi hip-hop albums, but the vocals are spoken word from public figures or intellectuals, and I think this might be either inspired by the people that he does or his own work, but it's kind of like there's this void in the universe. Mm-hmm. It's like a puzzle. It's an empty slot for a puzzle piece.
there's a big gaping black hole, and only your best self can fill that, and we need you. Like, you're way more powerful than you think. The network effect is tremendously powerful, and there is a need for those individuals to step up and do the thing they're here to do. And so much gets in the way, and it's great to try to assemble the tools that can help remove those barriers. So the insight stuff, the personal growth stuff, can do that for us personally, and it looks like Liberty Forum will be where we come together to do that out in the world, in the community space, in the political realm, and build things with with each other, and that's really great. One of those things, so I'm going to be releasing soon. We're talking about PorkFest. I created a little promo video this past PorkFest for what I want to build and exhibit at PorkFest next year, which is going to be the STOA Hub, which is going to be taking a lot of the things that I've gotten into in this YouTube channel and these passionate, this whole kind of following John Vervecke to have this architecture of this ecology of practices, and then these individual practices that basically help people to kind of awaken from the meaning crisis, so to speak, to bring meaning back into their lives, whether it's meditation or these various things. So you can look forward to seeing that soon, is what my vision for the PorkFest Hub called the STOA that I want to create, and I'll be asking for people to collaborate with me on that. So that is going to be coming out soon, and I'm going to go for it. Thanks in no small part to your inspiration and encouragement to have me just try and doing it, might as well run the experiment. I'm going to go for this hub. This is what I'm aiming for, and then I'm going to learn a lot from its successes and failures of trying to make it happen. I look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I mean, it's an iterative process, right? The story I just told of the young man who, he now sees himself as this great creator. It took him 4 years. It took him four tries, so just do something. Take a little step. And see how that goes, see how that feels, see what information you get, and keep moving forward. So I highly recommend. I'm glad you're doing that, my friend. Glad you're doing that.
Anything else before we wrap this up?
No, just look for the tickets. Tickets are not yet on sale. They're going to be on sale. If I can get this one guy to stop his internal obstacles, get past them, they'll be up very soon. I am Dennis Pratt Free on Twitter, and that's where I post mostly about the Free States. I do post something about personal growth, obstacles, and certainly it will be much more about Liberty Forum moving forward as I get more into that.
Yeah, I'll put Dennis's Twitter in the link below if you're watching this on the replay, not live. I'll do that right after we close out here. And thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. I hope that I see you at Liberty Forum 2025. I know I'm going to be there, and that's when we're really going to get into all of this incredible stuff that Dennis and the other folks are putting together. So thanks for listening, and hope to see you there.